I think so
All right.
too.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Captain's Quarters live stream of Star Trek Enterprise Season 4, Episode 22, series finale. These are the Voyages. I'm co-captain Jason, and I'm here with my co-captain Gabe. How are you, buddy?
Fantastic. How are you, buddy?
Good. Sorry I stole your intro, but you can
No,
take it away.
I like it. Yeah, trying something new here. We've done things similar to this where we like live streamed the recording of our podcast, but this time we're going to be watching the finale, which I've never seen. You haven't seen in probably 20 years, right?
20 years.
Yeah. So the way we're going to do this is because we can't stream the Star Trek content onto YouTube legally because we don't have the rights to it. Right now, we both have it queued up. I guess we're going to go 1, 2, 3, go. We're both going to click unpause. If you're just watching this video, you're not going to see or hear the TV show. So the thing to do is to be a Paramount Plus subscriber, first of all, watch along, and then Jason and me, as we comment on it, it should sync up. And we're gonna give timestamps frequently. We'll do one at 1 minute because like right now we're at 0 seconds. We haven't pushed play yet. We'll push play. We'll give one at 1 minute because that'll also help me and Jason know that we are synced up. And then we'll just do another one at 2 minutes and do it a couple times at the beginning, and then just know that we're synced up from that point.
And then
forward.
I think it'll be interesting to see if we call out like at the interesting moments at like, something happens like pretty interestingly or something monumental at 15 minutes or whatever the case might be. So
right. And we decided we are not going to pause it in our end, even though the temptation will be strong to do so.
it'll be the force will be strong with me on that one.
It'll just be way too hard to
I
get
was
back.
like, hey buddy, did you catch that pause?
It'll just be way too hard to get back on sync, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, Paramount Plus doesn't have the other streaming services family cast, let's call it that.
Yep.
Or friends cast.
Yep. Which you and I have used, never for like a podcast, but we've just done that when a new Star Wars show has come out or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, are we ready to do this?
Yeah, you ready?
So, series finale of Star Trek Enterprise. Jason and I have done a podcast of every single episode of this show, and now we're finally at the end.
And I think this is one of the things that wanted us to do this, because this is a monumental kind of thing, where we are finally at the end of the series. It's not just a season finale, but it's a series finale. So we thought doing a live and a YouTube video would be appropriate for this kind of thing.
Agreed. Because normally when we do this podcast, like for me, I will watch the episode the night before. So it'll be interesting to get the reaction hot off the presses. So
same here. And I usually take notes and all that kind of stuff because I usually point out, oh, hey, there's an homage to something or an Easter egg in the background. So it'll be interesting to see how I do.
All right, ready to do this?
But with that, get your popcorn. I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready, yeah.
All right.
Who's going to count off, me or you?
I guess the only thing to say is engage?
Engage, yeah. So then I'll count. I'll say
all right,
1, 2, 3, play.
Okay.
right? Okay. 1, 2, 3, play.
What? Oh,
Okay,
William
1
Riker?
minute.
What?
1 minute.
Yeah.
That was 1 minute.
Oh,
Wow.
how oh.
We've got the next
This is a
generation
next
thing
gen
going on.
episode. Okay.
Wow. Okay, so the,
Um,
the intro just started.
yep.
We at 1 minute, 20 seconds. So yeah, it was showing Mayweather on the bridge. He was talking to Sato about going to Brazil, and then all of a sudden, Captain Archer came on, and I felt like we were watching the wrong episode. I was like, shouldn't we be in the middle of the action of the whole like kind of hostage situation? And then it was like computer pause program, and it was Riker from Next
Star Trek.
Generation.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know how I feel about this.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this.
Dude,
A minute in, and I'm not sure how I feel about
now,
this.
are you serious?
Yeah, I am a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you'd be stoked, man.
I mm, as every Star Wars character would say, I got a bad feeling about this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's see. I don't know. Let's see. I'm wondering if they're referencing if they're gonna this is a reference to a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode. It's got to be. Let's see.
2 minutes, 35 seconds.
Yep.
I missed the 2 minute mark.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, what's her name?
Deanna Troy. Really? And yet they've never talked to Chef.
We are at 4 minutes exactly
Four
right now.
minutes. Yep. Wait, when did Shran die? What the hell? What?
I don't think we I don't think we know that he was dead.
Oh,
5 minutes.
he married the blind Dinar.
Is that her?
Jamel? Yeah, I think so.
Wow. This is so weird.
Watch for his name tag.
Strand or Archer?
Archer. See that red
Yeah.
on his left
Yeah.
chest?
What is that?
J. Archer. Ooh.
Eight minutes. You think we're gonna meet Chef?
I think it'll be Riker.
What?
That's my guess.
All right,
Oh, hey,
Porthos.
buddy.
Wait, you
Ooh,
think this chef will be Riker?
I think so.
I'm confused.
Well, he is on the holodeck, so he can play.
It's a weird version of T'Pol.
Yeah. When did we jump ahead in time?
I don't know. 10 minutes.
And her name is T'Pol from the name tag.
Was that a question?
No,
If it would
she's
be?
also so look at her left front.
Why wouldn't it be to Paul?
No, it's got her. She's got a name tag too.
Is that weird? Like, what is that off? I don't get
Yeah,
it.
we haven't had name tags on their uniforms. Oh, the Beauty Enterprise D.
So, do they ever have name tags in Star Trek?
No,
They don't?
no.
Oh, okay. So it's just this episode they have name
Yeah,
tags?
I guess it's for the ceremony, the the Federation Charter signing.
Hmm. Who died?
The crew of the Pegasus.
Hmm.
This is very, very much a link to a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode called The Pegasus.
Hmm. Nice.
Hmm.
Oh, wow.
What?
16 minutes. So Tucker doesn't make it, huh?
Yeah. That's
This is not an authentic version of T'Pol.
it's not. I agree. How much time has passed?
6 years, right?
Yeah. Since the last episode?
Since the incident with RoboCop, right?
Yeah. Miss you. That's not Vulcan.
Nope. $18 minutes.
Yep.
The child's age would indicate that it has been 6 years
6
or
years.
so.
Yeah. They got the high ground. Oh, this isn't how Tucker dies, is it?
Oh, that would be so weak. If they do like a slow motion fall.
Right? Or he gets shot? Oh, maybe not.
"22 minutes."
22 minutes. I like that she's a little green because she's part Enar and not completely blue. So I guess blue and gray.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, Enterprise D is in the asteroid field. Okay.
It's Data.
Ah. Oh, he did know. Oh man. This is why I'm a little disappointed in this episode and why it centers. Ugh.
Because it retcons TNG.
It doesn't retcon it necessarily, it kind of just cheapens it a little bit.
Okay. You're gonna have some splaining to do, buddy, when this
I
episode's
know,
over.
I know.
Mhm. Oh, sorry. I thought you were still talking to Reed.
He is. Oh,
So I think we're like a second off sync here, buddy.
no, I didn't catch it.
What's your timestamp?
Right now 25:58.
Okay.
They're talking about Tucker. I like the little nuggets.
20-year, what are you drinking?
I have no idea. I was like, is that Crown Royal? The next generation. The security protocols on this ship is poor.
What's your timestamp, buddy?
32, 36, 7, 8.
Okay.
Well, that was a little unnecessary. No.
No more name tags.
No more name tags. Surprised.
Maybe that was just for the program. Whoever was viewing it would know
Oh, T'Pol
everybody's
still
name.
has hers.
Okay. But Phlox doesn't, and Archer doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Nice.
Oh, nice. And that's a wrap.
That's it. Wow. Roll credits.
Roll credits.
Man.
Okay. Thoughts? And that's Gabe with his synopsis there.
Well, okay, so we'll keep rolling the video and let's do the regular intro.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, nerds. Welcome to the Captain's Quarters, the unofficial Star Trek Rewatch Podcast, where we are rewatching the entire Star Trek franchise, starting at the beginning of the official chronology. We have worked our way through Star Trek Enterprise, the entire series, all 4 seasons. We just finished the finale, season 4, episode 22, called These Are the Voyages. So I'm Gabe, and with my co-captain Jason. Jason, are you devastated by what you just saw?
I'd actually like to hear what you think and what you
Okay.
thought about the episode.
Yeah, so this part that you're hearing right now will be on our regular podcast feed, but Jason and I just watched the finale together. I had never seen it. Jason saw it 20 years ago or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
I may not have seen this,
okay.
to be honest with you. Now that I've seen it, I don't think I've seen it. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen it.
You call
I missed
yourself a
it.
Trekkie? You
I
call yourself a
know.
Trekkie?
I know. I was gonna hand you back my card.
So we streamed it on YouTube, us watching it, kind of like a mystery science theater type thing, which we'll probably do more of in the future, so you can watch along with us before we talk about the episode. But I mean, it's a lot to take in, honestly. You know, and normally after I watch the episode, I watch it the day before, and I have time to collect my thoughts and write up my notes. But we're hot off the presses right now. We literally just finished the episode, and just the whole thing feels like you could tell that they were informed that it was going to get canceled just a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
And they didn't plan for that. And they had to conjure up as much like meaning and like wrapping it up that they could in a couple episodes. And I think they did a good job. I thought there were some really good episodes this season in particular. But yeah, I mean, it feels like something's missing for sure. And then also, I'm kind of blown away they did not resolve what they set up in episode 21, Terra Prime. They had a whole suspenseful subplot with this Terra Prime organization that was like a purist, like fascist, anti-alien group that was hijacking Earth. They made like this like Death Star thing on Mars, right? With some sort
complete
of
take on from Star Wars for sure.
Yeah, or Austin Powers.
If you don't
pay me $1 million,
$100 million.
Yeah. So, well, and they didn't even reference it, did they? So, nope. I mean, we always knew that they would have prevailed, right? But we don't know how they did or what it was. I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I can't help but wonder if there was like a decision of like, no, you guys are canceled like now. So whatever you're doing, stop it. You have one episode to wrap it up and then you're done. And so that was weird. That part of it was weird.
It was.
I literally thought we were watching the wrong episode, because we weren't smack dab in the middle of the action of resolving this Terra Prime thing.
Right.
And then they added in the element of Captain Reichert from the Next Generation. So we were experiencing this like final chapter of Captain Archer's Enterprise, the NX-01,
Mm-hmm.
via a program that Reichert was running 200 years in the future of Captain Archer's time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the other thing, Jason, is because we were doing what we're doing with streaming it and watching it together, I kind of missed what Reichert's intentions were.
Yeah, and that's where, so there's a lot to take in, because I did not realize that this was going to tie into a Star Trek The Next Generation episode, season, I think it was 6 or 7, called The Pegasus.
Okay.
And I guess I'm okay with talking about it, because that season 6 or 7 episode of The Pegasus from Next Generation is going to be so far away from where we
Right.
are right now that we'll
Mhm.
probably forget about it. But in that episode, essentially, and I'm going to do a little synopsis of that episode.
Sure, yeah.
So the Enterprise is ordered to pick up an admiral, and he was mentioned in this episode. His name's Admiral Pressman, Eric Pressman, and he was Commander William Riker's first commanding officer, as Commander Riker was an ensign, like, fresh out of the academy, 6 months out of the academy. It's his first assignment, and he's aboard this starship called the Pegasus. Unbeknownst to us, the viewers, through a major part of the episode, the story is that the command crew, so Eric Pressman, Admiral Pressman, or Captain Pressman at the time, and Ensign Riker are on this mission, and something happens, and the crew decides to mutiny. They don't like what's going on. They don't like, the crew decides to mutiny on board the ship, and no one knows why. Okay.
So Jason, is any of this synopsis going to include information that you just learned in this Enterprise episode?
No.
Okay.
But
All
this is incredibly, this is foundational to the episode that we just watched.
Okay.
So in the past, there's a firefight, and the Admiral Pressman and Riker obviously survive. They got on a shuttlecraft, and there's a quote unquote explosion. The ship seemingly explodes.
Mm-hmm.
12, 15, 17 years later, a team, Starfleet intelligence, believes that the ship has been found. It didn't explode.
Okay.
And the Enterprise is ordered to go and retrieve the ship, but more specifically, a piece of equipment on board that ship. And it's in an asteroid field. As we saw Enterprise deflying, it flew into an asteroid field.
Mm-hmm.
And Captain Picard does not know what they're after, and he starts to question Riker. Why are we going through this? Picard had, he had to dig deep into Starfleet intelligence and records to find out, why is this admiral so obsessed with getting the ship that's, like, now outdated. It's almost 20 years old, right? Why do they need
Yeah.
technology from, 20 years ago or nearly 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Riker, under orders from Pressman, says, I can't divulge that information. I'm under orders. And so there's a conflict that he wants to be loyal to Picard, but also is under orders under Pressman to not divulge that information. Okay. So the Enterprise arrives into this asteroid field. There is a Romulan warbird. They are, conducting sensor sweeps of this asteroid field because they both know what they're looking for. They're looking for the Pegasus, essentially. The Enterprise is ordered under Pressman to enter this cavern, unstable cavern, because they detect the ship. They detect the Pegasus, and the Admiral orders the Enterprise with Picard's, with his, strictest objections. They find the ship. Pressman and Riker beam aboard, and they go to engineering, and they disconnect this thing, this device. They beam it back to the Enterprise. Before the Enterprise can escape, the Romulan warbird destroys the cavern, the entrance to the comet, the asteroid.
Okay.
Okay. So a little bit like a little Empire Strikes Back, but
Sure.
sort of.
Yeah.
So they are out of options. They can either, because of the destruction of the entrance, they can't carve their way out, because then it would, then they talk about it would collapse on the Enterprise. And so they're kind of out of options. So they can stay there and try to figure out something, or they can surrender themselves and get beamed off by the Romulans and taken hostage. At that point, Riker finally says it's a cloaking device. And it's more than a cloaking device. It's a incredibly powerful, almost gimmicky kind of cloaking device that it allows the ship to pass through matter. Okay, not just cloak, but it allows the ship to pass through matter.
Okay.
And if you remember in this episode, Riker and Troy are talking about a treaty called the Treaty of Algeron.
Yeah.
Which defines, in this episode, it says it defines the Romulan neutral zone between the Federation and the Romulan Empire. However, one other stipulation that it has is that the Federation agreed to not develop cloaking technology for their starships.
Okay.
And this is obviously a right. And this is obviously a clear violation of the Treaty of Algeron.
Yeah.
Pressman has been wanting to gain the upper hand on the Romulans, amongst others in Starfleet intelligence and Starfleet defense, that they need to develop cloaking technology. I'm sorry. And so basically, they use this. And so basically, Riker finally admits to Picard and says, okay, this is a cloaking device. We can adapt it to our ship, and then we can pass through this asteroid field safely. They do that. Picard then orders them to decloak and inform the Romulan government and of this cloaking technology, which we don't hear of what the aftermath of that is. And that's one of the disappointments in The Next Generation. So I think this is why I think it's season 7.
Okay.
Wait. And
well, remind me to go back to that. We just
said. Okay. And then so Picard, under the Treaty of Algeron, has Pressman arrested, and Riker too, because Riker surrenders himself because he was part of it. One of the other things that I forgot to mention was that Picard, the key element here is that Picard confronts Riker in the middle of the episode and says, tell me, well, what are we after? What was going on? And Will says, sorry, Captain, I'm under strict orders to not say anything under the Admiral's orders. And Picard kind of threatens him a little bit, and he's like, okay, fine, you can keep me in the dark. And Picard says, I have to trust on you to not put the Enterprise, not allow Admiral Pressman to endanger the ship. And one of my favorite lines is, or I will have to reevaluate the command structure of this ship.
Hmm.
And you're like, whoa. He would demote. I mean, right? I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're Picard, you would demote your first officer if it came to that.
Right.
But luckily, in the end, he does the right thing. And I'm talking about Riker. He does the right thing. He does say, Captain, this is a cloaking device, but it's more than that. It allows a ship to pass through humanity. He does open up. And I guess that was the writer's way out for this for These Are the Voyages, is that it wasn't a one-on-one conversation. It was just in that moment. It was like, oh, we're stuck, or we can be taken prisoners by the Romulans and taken back to Romulus, right? Or we can do the right thing and install this cloaking device and pass through the asteroid field safely.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like he opened up because he felt the compunction to be honest to his captain and his friend. It was just they were literally in a rock and a hard place. And to me, it's one of the major I have a couple of major disappointments with this episode. One, like I said, it really, really, I think, to me, and people on YouTube and in our podcast, comment down below, tell me I'm wrong, but to me, it cheapens the episode The Pegasus. It kind of downgrades a little bit, to me, the relationship between Picard and Riker up to that moment, up to this point, because then I think it's okay after that if this is part of canon, which it is, obviously. And then it didn't give the Enterprise NX-01 crew the finale I think they deserved, because they were basically second fiddles to it was kind of a mini Next Generation episode, really, because it wasn't really the crew of the NX-01, because we had skipped ahead 6 years. T'Pol became kind of emotional and all that kind of stuff, and as you mentioned, there were a couple of character changes, and it wasn't the real them. It was, we really think about it, it was the holograms. It was their holographic duplicates, I guess, from the 24th century, and it wasn't a proper send up. But the other thing too, let me just finish. One more point, or two more. No, one more point, but I'll save the last one for later. And Tucker really had to die just for Riker to kind of see that whole picture of the friendship between Riker and Picard. Essentially, is a lot like, in some ways, the Riker Picard relationship, to the Archer Reed relationship, or I'm sorry, Archer Tucker relationship. Sorry,
right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say I agree that the second fiddle thing, because it felt like they knew they were getting canceled. They didn't get to end the show on their own terms. So it's almost like you could see through their process. They were like, how do we end this with a bang? Let's have a huge cameo. But how do we weave in a big cameo into this episode? So the only way to do that is to have this big time jump But you're totally right. It took away from the stars of this show and put the emphasis on the stars of another show.
Yeah.
Um, but either I didn't catch it, but what the whole Pegasus incident, what did that have to do with the program that Riker was running for Enterprise?
Yeah, so I think so the program that Riker was running, the founding of the Federation, right? This alliance.
Right.
Was probably just a plot device, basically, to use to say, because Counselor Troy she suggested go back to this point in time.
Yeah.
Because because in her mind, it set up a parallel to the conflict of what Riker was going through. Does he follow the orders of Admiral Pressman, or does he follow the friendship that he has with the loyalty to Picard? And they drop several hints of that in this episode. Like when Chef is talking to T'Pol, she says, serving on board the Enterprise for this long, has allowed me to understand that humans illogically follow their instincts and their loyalty. Oh, boom. Right. Oh, that's to Riker. Like, oh, I need to, I should, open up to my captain and break the orders, right, of the Admiral. And then, I think it was Dr. Phlox who was like, or I think it was Tucker that says, Archer's always following orders, and is like, and then it throws Riker back into like, oh, what should I follow what Pressman is saying under orders under an admiral or whatever the case.
Sorry. Okay. You know what would help me out a lot?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so in this episode we just watched, in this episode of Enterprise, the scenes that we saw of Riker and Troy, where do those take place within the Pegasus episode of TNG? Is it after, before?
No, it's during. It's during. So it's kind of like like behind the scenes.
It's like an extended version
exactly
of the Pegasus episode.
Exactly. And that's why I said, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that clarifies and that brings home what I was trying to say, and I probably said it pretty poorly.
No, I thought you did a good job. It was just me.
This is why it felt more of like a Next Generation episode.
Yeah.
It's a lot like
it was the extended cut of the Pegasus episode.
Yeah. Or if any Lion King fans out there, it's kind of like Lion King 1.5.
Oh no.
Where it's like the Timon and Pumbaa kind of, it's happening with the Lion King surrounding it in the background. But it's from their perspective.
Bro, okay.
No, don't like that reference.
No, it's
never
fine.
seen Lion King 1.5. Okay, well,
I vaguely familiar. I know what you're saying. It's like it's almost like the deleted scenes of the Pegasus episode. It's kind of like Rogue One.
It's very much like Rogue One. Yeah, it's very much like Rogue One.
Or even some of the animated stuff that takes place parallel to things we saw in the films.
Right, or like Clone Wars, right?
Yeah.
It's happening kind of during
stuff we saw films. In the films.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I mean, no one has ever accused me of paying really good attention, but like his age, like he clearly in the real world had aged.
Yeah.
And he did not look like Riker from the original run of TNG. So to me, that those scenes took place years after teenage episode. But I finally you were what was happening is that was in the middle of the Pegasus thing, and it was
Yes.
his reason for why he would. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Other than like the big cameo, and I'm sure everyone enjoyed paying homage to this mainstay of Star Trek. I'm sure all those Enterprise actors were thrilled to have him on set. No, I don't know, man. That was weird.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm conflicted too, right? Because it's like, wow, we couldn't even have a series finale of our own. We need to bring in some of the big gun. I don't want to say
Yeah,
big guns, but
it is. No, that's exactly
like
what it is.
better track. I don't even want to say that. Like,
But that's what it is.
right. Yeah. You're right. It's
It's
what it
like
is.
it's like admitting we strayed off the path. So here's a way to get firmly back in the middle of the path by like bringing in the big guns.
Yeah. And that right off the bat, that's why I was like, oh, that's why, and I can't find a better word than cheapens. It just downgrades the whole thing. Like, it makes me sad that it makes me wistful and kind of sad that, like, really, Riker, y- y- like, that it would take him this kind of thing to come to that decision.
Right.
Like,
Huh.
I'm not disappointed in the way, in the end, I'm always the journey kind of person, right? I'm always I'm just disappointed in the way they wrote that journey. I was like, that's
Yeah.
unnecessary.
Yeah.
I'm like, Riker would have told Picard, right? At some point.
Hmm.
Um,
It had
and I know.
parallels too with Reed's Secret Service
Yeah,
assignment thing.
in section 31,
Yeah.
definitely.
That was one of those things I was going to say earlier.
Oh, okay.
Was I was surprised they didn't put that in there somehow, but
And I guess, and so I guess after thinking about it, I guess it does make sense that it is like 5 or 6 years into the future, because because Troy specifically pointed out and told Riker to go to this moment to help him make the decision, the right, help him make the decision,
mhm.
and this just happened to parallel, you know, does Archer follow the orders of Starfleet and head straight to San Francisco, or does he help out a friend in Shran,
Mm.
or
Yeah.
and then and then the relationship between Tucker and Archer. What do you think of his death, by the way?
Um yeah, it felt like I can't think of any good examples right now, but it does feel like when there's a story that maybe has nowhere to go but wants to be a big deal that kills off the like central character, or it's kind of like a cheap thrill, right? It's
Yeah,
like I don't know. It felt it didn't feel like they earned that. They just again needed something big and dramatic and emotional to happen, so they just killed off Tucker in
yeah,
a kind of random way.
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, in and it works. Like those things work. Like I honestly was like, I was sad about that. Um, I like Tucker, but I was also primed because I was sad about, like, even though we've had issues with this series, I get emotionally attached to things, and so just with it
Sure.
coming to an end, um, I feel like every show that I watch all the way through, I get this like kind of hollow depression afterwards.
A little sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was already primed there, and that kind of pushed me over the edge. But it did feel like they didn't have anything to say or anywhere to go, so they just kind of like went for the cheap
Yeah.
the the cheap out. I don't know,
Yeah.
the
I agree
easy
with you.
out.
Yeah. I agree with you.
It is a bummer though. I mean, like think about if you were Linda Park, is that her name?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you have like 90 seconds of dialogue at the beginning, and then you're never seen on screen again. Wouldn't you kind of be like, well, guess that was it? Uh, it just seems like perhaps maybe this episode should have been really given a lot of screen time to Mayweather, Sato,
I agree with
Reed,
yeah.
Tucker, to Paul, and Archer, Phlox. So those are the seven, right?
Yep.
Um, and just give each of them 3 solid minutes,
Yep.
and we
I
could
agree with
have
that.
figured
I
this
agree
out.
with that. I agree with that. And that has been a complaint, I think, of ours through this entire series,
Mhm.
where they're completely, totally underused.
Yeah.
Which is why I think this series doesn't hit as hard for me, because I didn't really get to know all of the characters. We didn't suss them all out over 4 seasons, right? We didn't get to know them that well. Yeah, we got to know, and the characters that we did like is because we did suss them out quite quite well, right?
Mhm.
To Paul, Archer, Tucker, to Tucker to a certain extent, but really, I mean, the characters that I really enjoyed were the ones that they gave depth, and the ones that they kind of explored a little bit more, where we didn't get to see too much more of Reed and Mayweather and Sato and Phlox to a certain degree. I mean, I love Phlox, and I wish they give him more. I love Sato and Mayweather. I wish they would have given them more. But, you know,
Yeah, for sure.
that's not what happened. And then I'm also convinced. So I'm convinced that if they were given another season, we would have gotten, I think, an upgraded Enterprise.
Mhm.
And I also really think that Commander Shran, unfortunately, Connor Trenier, unfortunately, with his death, would not have played, obviously, a role in season 5.
Hmm.
I think they may have were thinking, I don't know if this is true or not, but I could see that Commander Shran would have succeeded Tucker in that character space, and that we would have seen an Andorian serving on board the USS Enterprise. And that would have been really interesting to see a T'Pol and Shran and Archer dynamic play out for the rest of Enterprise. But obviously those episodes are going to have to be written and played in our head. But that, to me, I think is what would have happened if they were given a season 5. I think Jeffrey Combs would have been a series regular and become part of the crew.
Yeah, I think you're right. But you still think though they would have killed Tucker if there was a season 5?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I don't know. Maybe not Tucker. Maybe another character. But and maybe that goes against my better judgment or my better thought, that maybe they could have had this entire ensemble cast, but plus Shran.
Yeah, so I think for me, T'Pol was on a journey of embracing her emotion and her empathy for other people, opening up her emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when her and Tucker fell in love, that was the like, that was her hero's journey completed. But to me, the appropriate way to button her journey would have been for her and Tucker to admit that they are together and that they are in love,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
maybe even have a wedding.
Yeah.
I feel like that was what we needed. We needed them to come together openly and honestly. I did like that they gave Archer his moment in the spotlight. I
Yeah.
think that was appropriate. Um, I just think that every character was on a journey, and they could have gotten there. They could have taken them there at the end.
I'm with you. I'm with you, because as much as this was pain, as much as this was hard to see him, for them, the heartache was losing their child, right? Losing the baby at the end of the last episode.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that was,
I know what you're
yeah.
saying, but it wasn't really their child, right?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't, right? No, you're right. It wasn't. But at the same time, it was a thing, right? And it did have their DNA, and it did have, you know, um, it was part of them. And that to me was like heartache enough. And this was just unnecessary.
Yeah.
Unnecessary.
So, okay. Um, Apparently,
Oh,
when this show ended, there was a bit of an uproar
ooh.
amongst the fans, but there was also like cast members were like outwardly not fans as well. And so Brandon Braga said, um, it's the final episode of an 18-year run for Star Trek. So he's saying that like there was this era that obviously he was a big part of
Yeah.
that was coming to a close, and they felt the need to also say goodbye to the next generation. Like they needed to like
Interesting.
say goodbye to the whole franchise, I guess, in their minds.
Yeah, I could see that, because that was the end for Star Trek for a long time. That was the last, you know, episode of Star Trek for
Yeah, and now we know in hindsight
Discovery.
that that wasn't true, but
Right.
at the time it felt like serialized Star Trek is over forever or something.
Yes.
And
Yes.
how do we like give it the send off it deserves?
Oh
And
boy, and they missed.
oh man.
You know, if you're writing a love letter to the fans, boy, oof. That was more like a Dear John and not like a love letter to the fans. In my humble opinion, people can disagree with me, obviously, and I respect it, but for me, missed it. Maybe they had written too much Trek at that time, and they were just like, let's get it over with. Let's just get it done. Run out of ideas. The well is dry.
I think that happens too. Like, I think these showrunners, I think that it takes it out of them, and I'm sure
For
at the
sure.
end they're just done.
For sure. For sure. I could see that.
But I think we talked about on this podcast before how the majority of series finales do not go over well with
Yeah,
the
we
fan
talked. Yeah.
base.
Yeah.
Like, I vividly remember when Seinfeld ended, my uncle, who's a big fan of Seinfeld, told me, he's like, yeah, that was the worst episode of Seinfeld ever. And
Yeah.
like
Okay.
all of these big shows, when they, I mean, famously Game of Thrones, people still to this day have major issues with that finale. I have issues with it. I'm not like totally
Sure.
up in arms about it, but
Sure.
no one seems to get it right. I mean, maybe The Office is like maybe one of the only ones who got it right, but I could even nitpick that. You know, they prolonged the show like 2 seasons after Steve Carell left, and you know, so I don't know, man. MASH was a big finale, right? Did you ever
Yeah.
get it? Did you ever get
Yeah.
into
Yeah. Yeah.
MASH?
No.
Yeah,
No.
I never got into it
No.
either.
I couldn't. But yeah, I understand that was huge. That was a really good finale, and for me, one that stands out, and I probably said it, and it's true. Deep Space Nine and
Mhm.
um, The Next Generation, all good things.
Okay.
And then Deep Space Nine, the things that we leave behind, or the things that we left behind, or whatever that episode was called. Those were two really good ones. And then more recently, Star Trek Picard season 3. That was a really good series finale too. So,
Okay.
but what I was gonna say is that this episode, These Are the Voyages, is the second. It is it's the first or the second series finale, I think, that didn't end in the way I think it should have. And that so like the original series was unceremoniously canceled, and they weren't given like a final episode.
Okay.
But the last episode of the series was called Counterclock Incident, which didn't have any finality to it whatsoever. And so this, like, that one,
Hmm.
I think this one didn't have a feeling of a series finale.
Got it. I didn't know that. Was it abruptly canceled?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there was what, like a 20-year gap?
Oh, from 69 to I mean, the motion picture came out in 70. I think it was pretty close, maybe like a year or so after the first Star Wars, New Hope. I think it was like 78 or 79.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because Paramount was like, oh, jinkies, there's this thing called Star Wars.
Right.
We need to have something. Oh, don't we have something? Can't we revive, the show that was canceled like 10 years ago? So yeah. I mean, there were talks, I think, in the 70s of like a Star Trek TV miniseries, and it, like, the talks would go and it stopped. I wasn't there, obviously, but I've read that it would stop and it would go and it stop and it go, and finally they were like, let's make the movie.
I see. Okay.
But for television, yeah, like 20 years later, 1987
Yeah.
for Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Well, buddy, was there anything else with this episode you want to talk about?
Not in particular, but just the series. I just wanted to see what your kind of like recap of 4 seasons of. What'd you think?
Yeah. I will do that, but I wanted to, before I forget, the
Yeah.
name tag thing. Do you think that was for the benefit of the person running the program? Like if you're running the program,
Yeah, maybe.
it's kind of like having the name floating above their head, like in a video game. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. The other thing too that I thought it was going to be for the ceremony. Like when they're all back on Earth. Like that's just
yeah,
your like like your conference name tag, when you go to a big conference,
right.
whatever.
But
That's what I thought it was.
except that Archer's went away
Yeah,
when he was gonna give his speech.
right. So
So,
and then I was like, oh, then they kind of went away. Or just his?
well, because Phlox's went away as well.
Right.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he ever had his, but for sure in that last scene, he didn't have it.
Yeah, so I always to me, I thought that was like a conference name badge.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, so the series, I think for me, I think we hit on it a couple episodes ago when we were talking about Star Trekkiness.
Yeah.
That this show didn't have the like philosophical kind of reflecting on deeper meaning and approaching things from like a philosophical place. I thought that it hit those notes, but it always did it in like an action way where it was like they're forced to make a decision by external factors as opposed to like reaching a decision via debate and like thinking about what is ethical, what is moral, and asking the big questions and then taking action based on what they come up with. It was more like there's a sense of urgency in this series that I was not ready for.
I see.
And
And you would
and it left me with this like lack of really, to me, knowing what people's what their like ethos was, I guess, right? Like,
yeah. And you would think, right, that this was like their first go around. Right? Like this was their like this was the writers and the showrunners and the executive producers like their first show, right? Like because it didn't establish those things that you're saying. So it kind of felt like in a lot of ways that it kind of felt like the original series, or not the original series, but almost like a like the first time that they were ever doing a Star Trek, right? Like because they didn't take those cues as you were talking about, right? Do you agree? I mean, yes, am I off base on that?
yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah. But it wasn't their first time.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what's frustrating about it. I agree with you. That to me, that's what was frustrating about it is like, wait a minute, there was a blueprint there
Mm-hmm.
and it worked. Why are you going away from it so often?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I do appreciate though that it does feel intentional. It feels like, because this is the infancy of this whole thing,
Yeah,
that humans haven't had to like marinate on some of these big
it's true.
questions. Whereas like in this show, Dr. Phlox, being a Denobulan in a more advanced society, oftentimes played that role that I
Yeah,
was looking for. And I think we're supposed to get the impression that humans are evolving to this more advanced civilization.
I think you're right. I think that sounds right. That
So
probably, yeah, that sounds right. And I think you and I have a tendency to kind of forget that.
yeah, I just think I think they could have done more in that regard,
Yeah,
because to me, like Star Trek, like this series had a lot of action, and it was all good and entertaining. I just don't think that's what keeps people coming back.
yeah.
I think that people are looking for the interesting, that like the introspective sort of moral quandaries and that type of stuff. And my favorite episodes were always the ones like Dear Doctor with Phlox, when they
Yeah.
had to decide, do we save this species and basically commit it uh
Genocide, right?
and
It
base
was
yeah
genocide. Yeah.
and basically propel this like ongoing genocide of their enemies, because we have the antidote, or we have the cure right here. All we have to do is hand it to them. Or do we not do that and then save this emerging species?
Mm-hmm.
And like, to me, that's what I was looking for when we started this whole thing.
Yeah.
I enjoy that a lot. I enjoy that much more than bad costumes and Death Stars. All
You're
of
gonna have to
season
get
3.
you have to get used to that too.
Yeah, it's the Death Stars of season 3, just the
Yeah.
one Death Star after another.
It is the final order.
Yeah,
Copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste.
yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
how about you, buddy?
No, I'm not gonna you know what? I'm gonna leave it there.
Okay,
I agree with you, and I'm just gonna leave it there.
okay, all right.
That is a
Well,
perfect way to end that.
yeah, okay. Well, thank you, buddy, for going on this journey with me, and I'm
No, thank you.
excited to keep it going.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where we go next.
Yeah, we don't even know where we're going
We don't know
next.
where we're gonna go next.
Uh, I mean, I'm sure we'll figure it out pretty quickly,
Yeah,
but
we'll be
yeah,
back soon.
yeah, we need to figure out what is next, which series is next. And that's honestly, Jason, that is very exciting that we're going to start a new
Me too.
series.
I'm excited.
um
I'm
I'm
excited.
literally giddy at the prospect of
I'm
that.
excited.
um it's been I mean, I know it's an easy pun joke to make. It's been a long road, because I mean, I think we started this in late 2020.
Yes, it
So
was like October of 2020.
yeah,
Right in
we
like,
started recording them.
yeah, like it was the pandemic.
Hmm.
I mean, it was the early stages of the COVID pandemic, or the thing.
Yeah.
And we just to your credit, to you, this was your idea. We had talked about doing stuff together, and we had talked Star Wars maybe, or something else.
Hmm.
And we landed on Star Trek, which actually, for those listeners out there, and for our fans, I actually was like, let's do something not Star Trek, and let's do something Star Wars. And because I was like, well, because I wanted to do something that was more of your jam and to get to
Mhm.
talk about that kind of stuff. And you were like, no, it's oversaturated. There are too many Star Trek or Star Wars podcasts and YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff.
I
So
still,
no, yeah, no, yeah.
yeah, well, I still feel that way, but it's also that I don't feel totally in tune with where Star Wars has gone. Because
Oh,
even though I watched all of the Clone Wars, I watched all of the Rebels, um, there were so many episodes that I was paying attention 45% of the time. Like the rest of the time, it was just kind of on in the background because it wasn't engaging enough, and there's too much of it for me to like really focus on it to appreciate it to the point where I could actually like get in a podcast and say something relevant.
oh, I see, I see, I see.
Yeah. I mean, like, okay, the films, particularly a younger version of me, I feel like I could have talked about for hours, but those things have been like superseded by something else.
Right.
And but very grateful that you're also a Star Wars fan and that
Yeah, oh,
we
absolutely.
always end up talking about Star
We
Wars.
will, yeah.
We're
Ahsoka in 6
yeah,
days.
yeah. So I'm excited for that for sure. But but Ahsoka is a great example. If I was on top of my game, so to speak, I would have watched all of those Ahsoka ones. I would know them in the back of my hand. And then like when this series hits, I would like pick up on all the Easter eggs and stuff. And I'm just not there. Yeah.
I got you.
And the thing is, like, I would much rather go back and watch Andor than go back and watch Clone
Sure,
Wars. And
sure.
that is on my list of things to do is to go back
Oh,
and it's
okay.
just so good.
I'm not
Just
surprised. I'm not surprised.
yeah.
You were really not that I wasn't, not that I wasn't. I loved Andor too, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Um Yeah, and then I don't know if you saw Oppenheimer, but they had a
Haven't
preview.
yet, haven't yet.
Yeah,
I want to desperately.
they had a preview for a new movie with um Michael B. Washington or whatever his name is.
Okay.
Um,
A new Star Wars?
no, it's a new sci-fi movie, but it's
Oh.
directed by the guy who directed Rogue One.
Oh. Oh,
Yeah,
Gareth
Gareth
Edwards?
Edwards. Yeah, so
Does it look good?
it, I thought it looked very good. Yeah,
Okay.
Becky was not a fan, uh,
Eh.
but yeah, we'll talk Star Wars on
Yep.
this podcast. It's particularly with Ahsoka coming out.
And we always do.
Yeah, you know, kind of hoping they bring back Anakin.
Oh,
So
there's definitely. Oh, with the last trailer that came out.
I didn't see it. Did they have
Okay,
Anakin in it?
there was Anakin stuff in it. Yes.
New Anakin stuff?
Yes.
Wow. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
that was a bold move on their part.
Well, I mean, this takes place after Battle of Endor, so he's Force Ghost.
In the previews, he is.
I would imagine so. If it's not Force Ghost, then it's either flashbacks,
Mm. Unseen flashbacks.
unseen
Yeah,
flashbacks. Yeah.
got it.
And or holograms that she's
Mhm.
kind of, old holograms that he's kind of a part of. But he was a Force Ghost, I mean, so you never know. You never know. And Hayden Christensen has kind of been revived a little bit, thankfully.
He has nothing better to do.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't see him working on anything else. So
Right, right, right,
Darth
right, right.
Vader seems like a good home for him.
Yes.
All right. Next episode, let's debate on why Hayden Christensen anti-aged as a ghost, but Obi-Wan did not.
Oh,
Okay. Deal?
yeah, deal. We're gonna pick the brain of George Lucas. Oh boy.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it. Jason, thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone,
Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff.
Appreciate it. Yeah, on every platform, on YouTube, now Spotify, Apple Podcast, Twitter. Please, if you're on Twitter or X, excuse me.
You changed.
Follow us on X. Thriving Star Trek community on there.
It's not 10.
Maybe it is. And until next time, live long and prosper.
And may the force be with you.
See ya. All right, Jason, I'm going to click end on Zoom to end the YouTube video. So peace out, my friend.
Take care, buddy.